driving home, and I'm in the very bottom of Schuylkill County, down by Deer Lake. And I've been following the Ukraine thing, and whatever your feelings are on Glenn Beck, you gotta know that in 2016, when Trump was running, Glenn Beck was the original and the ultimate never Trumper. He wanted Cruz to win. He pretty much ruined his radio audience. His radio show got taken off the air in my area. His syndicated, morning radio program. He really shot himself in the foot, not supporting Donald Trump, and not just not supporting him, but he would have. He carried on like he would rather vote for Hillary than Trump. But in any event, so that's the source. Glenn Beck, the Never Trumper, has been doing a lot of investigative work on the Ukraine thing with Trump, and he's doing the background checks. He's, when somebody says this is the source, he's going back to the source and finding out that the source, they're lying about the source. The source says one thing and they're saying it says something else. He really has done an excellent job of rooting through the thing. It's if you got time and you don't already, listen to Glenn Beck. He's got a whole series on YouTube about it. It's really worth it's worth watching it. But I watched the latest, listened to it because I was driving. I didn't watch it. It's just him sitting there at a desk talking. But listening to it, it occurred to me that Biden holds up, through Secretary of State Clinton, Joe Biden holds up $2 billion of foreign aid to Ukraine. And that foreign aid is supposed to go to help energy resources development in that country. So he says, I'm going to hold it up unless you fire you're not getting it if you don't fire the prosecutor that's looking into Bellissimo or whatever the hell it's called. And as to quote Joe Biden, son of a bitch, 6 hours later the guy was fired and the investigation was closed. Alright, so the money gets transferred. Money gets transferred into a bank that the crook who owns the energy company also owns. When all's said and done, by the time Obama leaves office, I heard like $7 billion goes into that bank. And Hunter Biden he's sitting on the board of directors for anywhere between $50,000 and $200,000 a month. Hunter Biden apparently is not qualified to hold a job at a drive-through window at a fast food place because he's in and out of rehab for alcohol and substance abuse, and he can't keep his marriage together, and he falls apart and starts dating his brother's widow when his brother died, and the kid, he sounds like an absolute disaster. In any event, so the investigation into this guy that owns the bank and the energy company dies on Joe Biden's behalf. A bunch of money goes in there. Nobody really knows where it went. If you dump $7 billion into I'm not going to say a third world country because it's not, but a second world country, to its third and last place energy company. That energy company is probably going to be on the world stage as something, but it's still not. So where'd the money go? And nobody really knows. But the more I listen to this stuff, the more it sounds like Hunter Biden was not there for his expertise on how to smoke crack cocaine and best hangover remedies when you go on a bender. It was because he was the bag man. $7 billion went over there, got deposited in what bank to go into energy resource development, and Hunter Biden was the bag man that brought a good chunk of it home. And why not use Ukraine? It's a little nowhere country that a quarter of it got taken by Russia while this whole thing's going on, and nobody gives a damn. And we didn't send aid, we didn't send help. We sent money for resource development, not military aid since the Russians were invading, not humanitarian because they're starving, or nothing. We sent them money to develop natural resources like oil and gas, and the money disappeared. And Joe Biden's the vice president, and Hillary's the Secretary of State, and Hunter Biden is the bag man. And the only way that this is ever going to come to light, whether it's right or wrong, and I'm just speculating, is if Ukraine does an investigation. And if they do that, they can demand to see the books from the bank, and the books will either be blank, in which case the money was robbed, or there's going to be withdrawals from that account, and it's going to have to show where it went. And then they got to track that down and find out if this was a shell company, or whether this was a scam, or whether it was, some kind of shell company owned by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden and whoever. It's really interesting that Eric Hines, John Kerry's stepson, was also involved in that, and he thought it was too corrupt and he walked away. And the fact that he walked away and Joe Biden didn't and shut down the investigation is kind of telling. It's kind of an interesting thing. I think that the whole investigation isn't about Trump did anything wrong. It's keep him off base, keep him off balance, keep him on the defense, because if the truth is ever out, there's going to be a lot of top-ranking Democrats that go to prison, and it'll probably be the end of the Democrat Party for good. Anyway, that's my thoughts for the night on my 2-hour ride home. Y'all have a good weekend. Good night.